Good morning, everybody. With me today is John Bland, retired National Park Ranger, who's spent an awful lot of time in the Arizona area with a couple of our national parks and is very knowledgeable about desert safety. And we're going to just have a little short, quick talk about just basic practical steps that are important to take if you're going to go hiking or just go out in the desert for a day at any time. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Steve. Thanks for having me once again. Really enjoy doing these programs with you. So, all right. So yeah, I spent a lot of time, as you mentioned, in the parks here in Arizona, a lot of time in Flagstaff, and then also at Saguaro National Park in Tucson. And there we would see people getting in trouble in the desert all the time. And it didn't matter if it was the long, hot summer days or during the winter months, people would get into trouble if they're not doing what they should be doing. So in this quick little program, let me give you a few little tips to help you from preventing or help your folks from becoming another statistic in the desert. So let's get this thing going here. All right. Oh, hang on. Oh, there we go. All right. So some of the biggest things that you need to do is just being prepared. If you're prepared, then that's going to be 90% of the time that's going to solve all your problems. And in being prepared, you want to be able to plan out what you're going to be doing. You know, if you're going for a bike ride out in the desert on a desert trail, or going for a hike, or you're taking the car out, plan it out. Make sure you have all the stuff that you need and know where you're going. Make sure you tell somebody where you're going and then when you're going and how long you're going to be gone, and stick to that plan. It doesn't do any good if you make a plan, you tell somebody about it, and then you change your mind halfway through it, and then nobody knows where you're at. So make sure you stick to your plan, or at least notify those that you've told and say, hey, I've decided to go this other place. And then make sure you check the weather, check other conditions. You want to check road conditions, trail conditions, things like that, because once you're out there, you're at the mercy of what the weather might be and what the conditions are. So check ahead of time. And then knowing what to do. That's a really big one. Knowing what to do and not to panic if you get into a situation. You want to have some good decision-making skills if you're going to be out. Also,
it's kind of like the old, as I remember when I was a youngster, the Boy Scouts, they had a motto, or maybe it was the Cub Scouts, is just be prepared.
Be prepared. You're right. Yeah.
Especially if you're going off.
Right. So yeah, being prepared, and also knowing your limits. Make sure that you're fit enough for the activity. If you are a couch potato most of the time, and then all of a sudden you get this hankering to climb up Camelback Mountain, for instance, in July, which I wouldn't recommend in the first place, but you want to be prepared for that. Make sure that if you're going for a bike ride with your very fit friends who bike ride in the desert all the time, make sure that you're fit enough to go along with them. Make sure you're acclimated also. If you're sitting on the couch and you're in 72-degree temperatures year round, and then you go out when it's 40 degrees or 102 degrees, it's not going to be very comfortable for you. And then also make sure that your trip partners are fit enough. And that includes the furry ones that you might take. Many times we would see people who would take their dog out on the trail, and it would be a really hot day, and all that fur, they can't shed that. So make sure that they're fit enough, or your friends or family members that are going with you as well. And then you'll be a lot better off. We all have basic needs. We need water, shelter, shade, food, and proper clothing, and then gear if you're going to go out. And that could be if you're going out for a 1-hour walk, or if you're going out for multiple days. You have to have most of these things all the time, or if you're going to be out there. So let's talk about those a little bit. Water. It's suggested that you take 1 gallon of water per person per day, And some people need more than that, and some people don't need as much as that. And new science is saying, pay attention to what your body is saying. If your body is saying, yeah, I'm thirsty, then drink water. If you're saying, well, you know, I'm just drinking too much and I feel really bad, then maybe you don't need that much. And also, you want to limit the flavored drinks. You know, the drinks like Gatorade and especially soda and anything with alcohol. You don't really want to take any of that with you or much of that with you for reasons that it may dehydrate you more, it may make you feel bad. So limit some of that. It's good to have a little bit of some drinks with electrolytes in it, but limit what you take.
It's basically water is what the body needs.
Yes.
Yeah, not any of the other ingredients. Yeah.
Well, like I said, what is a little bit of electrolytes is important as well. I'll talk about that here in a minute. But you want to have mainly your body is saying, yeah, we need water. Also, when you're going out, again, if you're going out for an hour, if you're going out for several days, you should have some type of a shelter or a shade with you. Carrying a little backpack, you can carry a small tarp or a little tube tent. Even if you get stuck out there, if you're out for a day hike and you sprain an ankle or you do something, you need some shade, this is a good way to be able to get out of the sun and also out of the cold. If the weather turns on you and all of a sudden you got a thunderstorm on top of you, you need to get out of that. There are places where you can go, there are crevices and boulders and shady trees you can hide under as well. You have to have a little caution there because other critters might be trying to hide in those places as well. And you don't want to get so far off of a trail that if you need help that people can't find you. So carrying a tarp, tube tent, something like that is a good idea. Now, food. You want water, but you also need food. And if you don't have water, then don't eat food because you need water to help process that food. So don't worry about it if you're just going out for a quick little jog out, for a mile jog or something, take water with you always, but if you don't need to take food with you, but other times you may need it for anything that's extending beyond an hour or so you want. You need protein. Protein is there for your muscles to help your muscles keep working. The carbohydrates give you the energy. And then, like I was saying, those electrolytes, that keeps everything in balance. That's the stuff that you can get in drinks like Gatorade. It's a little bit of salt and other ingredients in there that help you keep all of these things in check as you're out performing in the desert, or out walking, running, bicycling, or just riding in the car. And then there's a thing called hyponatremia. We used to see that at Grand Canyon a lot, and that's that people would go for a hike, they would take water, plenty of water, they drink plenty of water, and then they would forget to go to the bathroom, or they would be too shy to go to the bathroom because there's nowhere to go when you're on the Bright Angel Trail going down for a mile and a half. And when you got to go, you got to go. So hyponatremia is basically having too much water and nowhere for it to go. So, and that can be a very, very bad illness. So it creates cramps and creates, it's kind of like water poisoning in some ways. So making sure you are using the bathroom as you're also drinking and eating food. All right, clothing. You want to have the proper clothing. I like to wear a long sleeve, lightweight shirt if I'm going out in the summertime, and then layer up in the wintertime so that you can start getting rid of layers as the sun comes up. I like long pants or the zip off type pants. That way you can, same thing, you can start off warm on a nice cool morning and then zip if you need to and get rid of those. Now, in cotton versus synthetic, that's kind of a personal preference. I prefer cotton, especially on the hot days, because it soaks up the sweat and then the cool breeze helps to cool you down. I don't think that a lot of synthetics are as good as at shedding the heat as much as cotton does, but that's kind of a personal preference, but do your research on it. Having a full brimmed hat during winter or summer is good to keep the sun off of you. A bandana we can use, put over the back of your neck or on a hot spot maybe, or over your face if it starts to get kind of dusty out. Sunglasses, that's kind of a no-brainer. Proper shoes too. Make sure that if you're traipsing around in the desert, there's a lot of cactus and a lot of things out there that'll get in your shoes. So a good sturdy pair of shoes are really important. And then again, staying warm. You go out and as you know about this time of year, you can go out in the daytime and it'll be 72 degrees and really nice. And then its sun starts to go down in the evening and it gets really cold really fast. So always carry a jacket with you and even an emergency blanket, something inside your backpack in case you get caught out longer than you expected. And then again, gear. You want to have maybe a small survival kit and a first aid kit. Those kits, you can pick them up in a lot of different stores, or better yet, you can build your own. And there's lots of resources on the internet to tell you what you might want in those kits. You can make a real small kit that can fit easily in your backpack, or if you're in the car, you want to have some more in a larger box. You might have sleeping bags and things like that in it. Overnight gear, again, having an emergency blanket or a small sleeping bag, something that'll help you in case you get stuck out overnight. That's really important. Having spare food if you are going to be out longer. If you're in the car, make sure you have a shovel and a spare tire that actually has air in it and the tools to be able to change that tire. Seen that so many times, people get stuck out there and they blow a tire out, they can't go anywhere, or they get high centered on a rock and they can't go anywhere. And if they had the proper tools and a little bit of knowledge of being prepared, then it wouldn't be such a problem. And then of course, do I even need to say bring a cell phone and charger? I think everybody's got one of those nowadays, right?
Let's hope so.
Right. So, of course, you want to take care of common emergencies and common discomforts is what I like to call them. Is very few times does it actually become an emergency. Sometimes it's more just a discomfort or inconvenience. So if you get lost, if you're paying attention and you're staying on the roads and you're staying on the trails, and if you get kind of off of a trail or off a road, don't just keep wandering. You need to stop. And actually, that's a good term. It's called stop. And that means stop, sit, then take a look around, observe things around you, think about what's going on. That's it goes back up to T. Observe your surroundings, and then prepare what you're going to do. And if you do that and you take the time, then you're not going to wander further and further off the trail. You're not going to wander further and further down a road somewhere where you're not sure. Just stop and then take all that into consideration before you make decisions of what you're going to do. And when you look around, you might say, oh, there's the main road right out here. If you start getting panicky, that's when you start getting into trouble. For falls and cuts, those are things that if you stay again on the trails and you're not boulder climbing and getting off into these kind of sketchy areas where you might be able to easily climb up, but you can't climb back down, then that's going to help you prevent having a fall. Of course, you can fall on level ground, and if that happens, if you're prepared for having a small first aid kit, usually that'll take care of the smaller things anyhow. And same things like cuts and bruises and things like that. Cactus, yeah, there's a lot of cactus out there, and if you've been out in the desert any length of time, you're going to wind up with cactus in your shoe, or a cactus in your hand, or cactus somewhere. So carry a comb with you, a pair of tweezers with you, something to pull the cactus out if you wind up getting it inside of you. It's going to be irritating, itches. There's no poison in the cactus, so it's not going to be anything serious like that. But if you carry a comb with you and you use that to flick the cactus off of you and tweezers to pull out the spines, and then you're just going to be uncomfortable for like 3 days afterwards. Critters, pay attention where you're putting your hands and feet, especially on the warm days. That's when the snakes are out and there's spiders, scorpions, things like that are out. As long as you're paying attention where you're putting your hands and feet, you shouldn't have to worry too much about critters. The bigger critters, don't even worry about that. They don't want anything to do with you, and they hear you coming a long time before you even get there to where they're at, and they'll be gone. So for the most part, you're good with that. And then again, going back to heat and cold, those are the things to be prepared for. If you're out on a warm day, prepare for a cold night. if you're out on a cold morning, then prepare for a hot day, and be prepared with the proper clothing and food and water and shelter and things like that, and you should be good. And Steve, those are the main things right there for going out into the desert, making sure that people know where you're going and taking the proper gear, paying attention to what you're doing, and you should be good. And it's a wonderful time to get out in the desert right now, this time of year.
Mm-hmm. It sure is, especially with the spring coming up.
Yeah,
A wildflower season, it'd be great. Well, thanks, John. Sure appreciate it. That was neat. I sure appreciate a little quick lesson.
Okay. Good. All right. Hopefully that was helpful and everything, and everybody be safe out there, but go out and make sure you enjoy.
Okay. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Take care, Steve.
All right. Bye.